Real Madrid will be aiming to post the fifth straight victory in all competitions when they host Granada at the White House on Saturday. The Los Blancos are currently top of the league, level on point with second place Granada. Their guests, meanwhile, level on point with the second place Girona, actually, not Granada. While their guests, on the other hand, Girona actually sits 19th in the Spanish top flight. They have only 9 points after 14 games so far this season. With that, I welcome you to another episode of Let's Be Real, a Real Madrid podcast. Welcome once again, everyone. So today we have the usual suspect, Jacob, with me. And more importantly, even more important than Jacob himself, we have Paddy. He's a diehard Granada fan. So I'll just say welcome to Paddy before we go to Jacob. How are you doing, Paddy, man? Thanks for joining us. How's your day been? How's your week been?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Thanks for having me, guys. Looking forward to a good game. Hopefully a good result for us on Saturday evening.
Yeah, what about you, Jacob, man? It's been a good week for you as well?
Heck yeah, dude, it's been a really nice week, especially after the results from midweek. But now, our players don't have rest. We don't have rest. We have an early kickoff on Saturday, like usual. Things can turn out to be a banana peel, especially with games like these. We always expect, come on, it's just Granada. They're 19th in the league. We're probably going to cruise over them. But then that's probably not going to be the case, especially with all of our players playing so much over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, Jacob, you know what they say, success has a price, and that means you have to play every 3 days. That's just, the small price you pay for success. But then anyways, let's come back to you, Paddy. Like, you're an Irishman living in Andalusia supporting, Granada. That's like, a very, very interesting, intriguing combination. Can you just, tell us how you all, you got into the whole Granada team and how you became a fan and like, what's it like to be a fan of a club like Granada?
Yeah, I mean, I did Erasmus here originally almost 20 years ago. Back then, Granada were in Tercera. My first game that I went to see was in Tercera, and it was Granada versus Loja. And it was fun because back then you could bring your own alcohol. It was kind of like a botellón at the football, so it was good fun. And it's not a great stadium, the one in Granada, but the benefit of it being so small is that you don't have any bad seat. It's not like in the Bernabeu where you've got the nosebleeds and you need binoculars. So even if you're in, behind the goals or in the top corner, it's not that bad. So it's always good fun. And then I did my Erasmus year and then kind of kept coming back over and back for the guts of 10 years, basically, a few times a year. We try and get it kind of coincide with the game. So obviously went from Tercera, then Segunda B, Segunda, and then Primera. And unfortunately, the season they were in Europe was obviously the pandemic. But I moved back to Granada about, 9.5 years ago now. And so I've basically gone to most games when I haven't been working. This year I've changed jobs, so I've basically got a season ticket. And I'm going to pretty much every single game at home and hope to get a few away games after Christmas as well, which should be fun.
Yeah, that's interesting. Actually, it's been quite a journey for you. Actually, we can sense, you going to, Spain for Erasmus, and then you decided that you want to move there totally. It means you've enjoyed your time there. So I was just gonna ask you, like, what would you say your high has been? Being a Granada fan, like I don't know, like what's the the highest you've experienced, or like let's say what's the experience that you will never forget so far?
I mean, there was the lowest, I suppose, was 2 years ago. I was at the stadium when Jorge Molina missed the penalty and obviously went down to Segunda, which is very sad. In obviously that the team got relegated, but it was more so sad for Jorge Molina because he's a decent guy. I mean, he's still at the club as a coach. He's retired as a Granada player. So that's probably the low point. The high point, there's a few. I mean, 2009, 2010, when it came up from Segunda was pretty cool. But the thing was that back then I was living in Ireland, so we found a stream for the game on Roja Directa back then. I'm sure a few of your listeners will know what Roja Directa was, and so we got that, and then like a live feed from one of the local newspapers, Ideal, and so we were kind of watching everybody celebrating in Granada, and meanwhile I'm in my bedroom in Ireland, and everybody's wondering, what are you going crazy for? So although I wasn't present for it, getting to premiere in the first time in my kind of lifetime was pretty cool, I think. Even though, as I say, I wasn't there, I wasn't even in the city, but we were kind of living it through the online feeds, which was as good as you could kind of hope for, basically.
And after you
Yeah,
moved over
that's
to Spain, did you actually go to some of the Segunda B games as well?
Yeah, the Segunda games, I've been to quite a few. I mean, they were relegated second division last year. I went to about half a dozen, and a lot of them basically I was running a pub basically, and a lot of the games last year were at 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock on a Saturday or Sunday. So I used to do the day shift, and so I didn't get to as many. So basically last year, a lot of them that I got to were any other time. So the late ones on 9 o'clock on a Saturday or Sunday, Monday or Friday were the ones that I was able to see last year. So it wasn't as many as I would have liked. And then other seasons as well. There was one season where I was about 10 or 12 home games while they were in Segunda. So it's just a case of literally if I'm not working or I'm able to get it off, then I go to the game. And that's whether it's Segunda or Primera, being honest about it.
Oh, that's quite an interesting story there. Actually, I was just wondering, like being from Ireland, like is there any club you support back home, or I mean in the UK as a whole? Like, do you have any other football club that's very close to your heart, or is it just Granada and Granada only?
Well, I'm from a place called Dundalk, which is just about an hour north of Dublin, just south of the border. And we've been quite successful in the last 5 or 10 years. We've been in the group stages of the Europa League twice, which for an Irish team is quite successful, and won, I think, 5 titles over the last 10 years, which is good. Now it's in a period of transition. In fact, this week we just got new owners, and in England I would be a Man United fan for my sins, but we look like we're improving a little bit as well, I think. Not forgetting about midweek against Galatasaray, but more or less I think we're on not a steep upward curve, but at least it's curving upwards. I'm not sure at what rate, but they would be the kind of teams that I follow.
That's interesting. Like for example, like yesterday, actually, I was seeing a stat that was saying like, Andre Onana has the most clean sheets in the Premier League. And I'm like, okay, if there's an individual player who sums up Manchester United, I think there is no one than Andre Onana. Like he is, both capable of, the heroics, and then also capable of, as we saw against Galatasaray as well. Basically, you just don't know what you're getting, as you alluded to. Like, okay, we're on a curve, but we don't know, is it like upward curve or downward curve? Like we're just pumping.
Yeah, I think in general it's slightly upward. Slightly upward. I think the worst times are over, I think. But let's see for the rest of the season.
Yeah, okay, then let's we spoke about the highs and the lows. They get back to Granada. Like I think currently you would agree if we say like it's currently one of the lower periods for Granada. Like currently 19th in the league. Basically have 7 points, lost the 4 of the last 5, conceded 33 goals, the second worst in the league. The coach who literally the Segunda was Paco Lopez was sacked, and 45-year-old Alexander Medina, someone who's never coached out of South America, not even talk about coaching in Europe, is now the new coach, and it's just looking a bit bleak so far this year for Granada. I don't know, maybe you can just take us through what's been like for Granada coming back up to the to the Premier Division, and how difficult it has been.
Well, I suppose the thing for me is that I don't see it as that bad, and I know the results are there. But when you watch them attack, and when you watch basically from the front 6, let's say the keeper and the back 4 are what is going to get Granada relegated, possibly. But I feel like the midfield, the wingers, and the striker are playing well. sometimes, yeah, they should score a little bit more, but which team shouldn't? But they don't play a bad football. You don't feel that there's no hope. Like against Betis, there was so many chances, for example. So maybe just be a little bit more clinical. Boye up front, his hold-up play is pretty damn good, I think. Unfortunately, he's maybe not the out-and-out striker, let's say a Soldado or someone like that who's played at Granada before, or Jorge Molina, who's going to maybe be more of a finisher. But his hold-up play and bringing in Brian Zaragoza into play, bringing in Puertas when he's there, Izuni, so he's pretty good at that. The main problem for me, I think, is that, well, two things that have been, let's say, going wrong on a consistent basis this year is that Paco Lopez likes to play a high line, and that worked with this team in Segunda. But neither of the two central defenders have the pace to play that. In Primera, the teams are a little bit cleverer. They're able to play the ball over the top, and that's when they've kind of got caught in the break, and they don't have the recovery pace necessary for Primera Division, unfortunately. So one of two things had to happen with Paco Lopez. Was either he had to survive until January to maybe the point where they could buy or get in or loan a couple of, at least one central defender with a little bit more pace, or he had to play a deeper line, because the two central defenders with the ball at their feet, they're not that bad. Yeah, maybe they're not top class or whatever, but they're not terrible. And so they were just conceding too many goals almost from the get-go. You're almost starting at -2 or -3 in almost every game. So that's not a good starting point for most games. Even against Getafe, a lower team, let's say, conceded within a minute and a half, I think, to Mason Greenwood. And then after that, yeah, they looked a little bit more solid. But their build-up play and their attacking play, I don't think is a problem. Not that big a problem, if you can stop conceding the 2 or 3 goals, then it makes it a little bit easier. But I think even Real Madrid would struggle to win the majority of their games if they were conceding 2 and 3 every game, But a blessing this week, apparently Brian Zaragoza has come out and said that he won't leave Granada in January, which I think is the most we can ask for, because obviously with the season that he's had, his call-up to the Spanish national team, and such a low buyout clause of 14 million, it's easier to see like some other teams. There's talk about Brentford and Leipzig maybe going for him at 14 million. It's quite cheap for either of those teams. And he said he's going to stay to the end of the season, which I think will benefit him. He got called up to the Spanish national team, and imagine after that he's got ambitions of maybe getting a call up to the Euros. So at least he knows he's going to start in Granada. And he seems to have a bit of fight. He seems to feel not sympathy, I suppose. He feels like he is with Granada because they've given him a chance to make it a football, He didn't come through any cantera or anything in any other big club in Spain. He was playing for his local team, and they plucked him up to Granada B, I think 3 years ago maybe. So he feels a bit of loyalty to Granada, and I think that's at least optimistic, something to make you a bit optimistic for the rest of the season. And as I say, hopefully the new sporting director can maybe bring a couple of central defenders in January, maybe a new goalkeeper as well, for my liking. I don't think he's up to standard for Primera. But yeah, that's my kind of rough take on the season so far, and hopefully we can improve from now on.
Jacob, I'll just come to this is the same Granada that literally drew 2-2 at Barcelona. I don't know if you've seen anything. Are you kind of surprised that they could not kick off their season after that draw against Barcelona?
Yeah, I mean, I thought there was I think there was a run of 4 in a row where there were draws. Then there was Barcelona 2-2. There was 1-1 against Betis. Two teams that are playing well. And a 1-1 against there was a loss to Villarreal. A draw? Was it a draw? Anyway, so they're capable. They can play football, but it's like I said, it's just defensive solidity is what's kind of screwing them up at the minute. Because as I say, Villar, I think, is a very good footballer. In the middle of the field, the play kind of builds through him. And the wingers they have, Izuni, I'm not sure he's a proper first division player, but he's improved in form. He had a terrible start. Maybe that's just acclimatizing to a better, higher standard of playing in the first division. But he's kind of coming good. So it's not, as I said, even the games that they've lost, apart from Girona, where Girona just blew them apart. That was like watching, a Real Madrid team in their pomp. You know what I mean? That was just incredible. And because it was the first game or two of the season, you're kind of going, oh, it's Girona. But, you look at how they've gone. They've consistently played at that standard since. So you have to go, well, that's normal. That's what you would expect. So apart from Girona, where they were completely outclassed, I think they've had chances to win every other game and possibly should have, to be honest.
Interesting. Jacob, do you have anything to add about
Yeah, man.
Granada?
I did see the Barcelona 2-2. That was my first take of Granada this season. It was a really great game. Paddy can attest, the attacking display on that day was incredible. It's just that they couldn't fucking hold on to their lead or actually win the match. It was a shame. And then what I have to ask for Paddy is that you keep on mentioning that you guys have such a weak defense, but Real Madrid, we already gave you one of the best defenders in the world, Jesus Vallejo. So why aren't you guys actually playing him?
Well, he's been injured. I think he's back in the fold for this week, but he wasn't good. He wasn't good enough 2 years ago when he signed for Granada, and I don't know why they got him again. I don't know. Somebody owed somebody a favor or something, but he's not. In my mind, he's not good enough. He's too physically weak and too small to play centre half in Primera. Even Segunda, I don't think he's good, but he was at Granada this season where they played in the Europa League. And he wasn't good enough then, and I don't think he's good enough now. I know he came with, I think he signed from Zaragoza to Real Madrid, whatever, 5 or 6 years, 7 years ago, maybe at this stage, I don't know. But he came with a lot of promise, but he's not up to it. So yeah, he'll probably not play a lot this season, I don't think. And yeah, he's too easy to muscle off the ball, to be honest with you. So yeah,
that's
I know there was sarcasm when you said the best defender in the world. But, still, he's not even the best one in Granada. So,
well, Paddy, actually, that's this, basically the summary of, the Jesus Vallejo. Actually, it's like he's not available. Even, I remember when even we had like injury issues, like, even Jesus Vallejo is not available to even, plug the gaps and stuff like that. So I think that unavailability is one of the greatest handicaps of, the reason why Jesus Vallejo hasn't been able, to fulfill all of the promise that he has. But one thing I also like, throw at you is that you mentioned about the fact that you don't have a defense and stuff like that, and well, then you look at your team, and I feel like the reason why you have 2 attackers with 5 goals each, and then because Boye with 3 goals as well, that's a really, really good number for for a team that's struggling at the bottom of the table. But I feel maybe the reason why this is happening is, don't you think it's because of the way Paco Lopez plays, that exposes the defenders and gives more safety to the attackers, because they are more involved in the play, and he's trying to play an expansive football. It's like you're trying to and have it at the same time.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but when you play that kind of style of football, you look at, say, Ange Postecoglou at Tottenham, and he literally signed Mickey van de Ven from Germany, and the guy is like one of the fastest guys in Germany last season, not for a central defender, for any player. So he can afford to play a high line, because he knows if the ball gets tipped in over the top, he's got the speed to match the fastest striker. Granada, where I think what's happened, Paco Lopez was maybe promised a couple of new central defenders in the summer. That didn't happen, and that's why they've got rid of him, because the board hasn't done their job and recruited sufficient quality at that position. Because the guys are slower. Like my granny's dead 10 years, and she could probably run faster than the 2 central defenders there. So that's their, as I said earlier, when they have the ball at their feet, they're good. But when they have to go toe to toe with most Primera Liga attackers, they just don't have it. So I understand what you're saying exactly, but that's why I also said that if he was able to survive until January and just get a couple more faster central defenders, then maybe they could make a proper go of it and actually play the style in Primera that he wanted, and for it to be effective.
Yeah, but Paddy, that's actually, a very, very good comparison there. But then the point is, you're comparing, you're making a comparison across, a much higher scale because, like, Mickey van der Ven was coming from, Wolfsburg in Germany. Like, he wasn't coming from, I don't know, he wasn't coming like from the lower further teams. Because I'm just going to try to draw parallel here. For example, we have like Burnley with company as well. They literally blew everything out of the water last year, in the championship, and then now they come to the to the Premier League, and basically I think it's okay. I wouldn't say they're exactly like Granada, but it's similar, But for them, in their case, even their attackers aren't finishing the chances because you see like they concede 20 chances, but they also make like 5 chances every game, So that's again like not easy to find those defenders that can actually make such a because the point is that you're talking about a defender that's going to take the team to the next level, so it's not easy to find those defenders, and especially when you're a team like Granada, which basically I mean 10 to 15 matches you play are basically you're the underdog in those games. Like, don't you think that it's a more conservative approach, to kind of establish yourself in the league and then you build from that? Like, I think what I'm just saying is I don't think this is too much too soon for like a team that's coming up from the Segunda.
Yeah, could be. I mean, I know what you're saying. It's kind of like it's a very like with company. It's a very idealistic approach. You're trying to keep with your principles. And, Paco Lopez, maybe it's what did him in because, as I said, either he had to play a lower defensive line or wait to January and get two faster centre halves. And in the end up, he chose to keep to his ideals. And that's what, did him out of a job because during the week, you seen, I don't know if you saw the press conference, what he gave a press conference to say goodbye to the fans and the club and everything else. And all the players were there, and there was a few of them crying. So it's not like he lost the dressing room or anything like that. Unfortunately, like it seemed to be, the players seemed to love him, and they gave everything for him. I've that's actually one thing I failed to mention earlier on is I've never, no matter even with Diego Martinez, I never felt that players left everything on the pitch, and in games this year where maybe the result wasn't going perfect. They weren't winning. Maybe it was a draw, or maybe it was a loss. But you felt that everybody was trying, and that's one thing over the years that sometimes with Granada, it's like things start to go wrong, and they're like, yeah, that's it, and they kind of down tools or don't seem to try. But these guys seem to be trying a lot, so it's easier to kind of. I suppose support them when you can see that, no matter what team it is, whether it's Real Madrid or Man United or Dundalk or Granada, when you see your own players trying as hard as they can, no matter what their ability. But that's what another thing wrong with Man United recently is, you don't feel that the players are maybe giving all that they can. So it's easier to kind of support them in the bad times whenever you can see them doing, their maximum for the team and for the success of the team.
Paddy, I think you have a very strong affiliation with the red color. I don't know why. I just have a sense of that.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
I say I feel like you have a strong affiliation with the red color. I don't know. I just get a feeling.
Well, so long as it's not Liverpool red, it's fine.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Anyway, moving on from the past, to the present and the future. You have a new coach in Alexander Medina. Someone who's never coached in Europe. Like, I don't know. For us, like, I think Jacob will attest to this. Like, it's a bit of an unknown entity. So, like, it's so difficult, to know what to expect in the game at the weekend. But like, I don't know if you have any, pointers for us. Like, what are you thinking it's gonna look like?
Let's see. I mean, as I say, I've read a few bits and pieces, that he's had his dealings with Gallardo. He's learned a lot from him. I've read little bits of his record from Talleres, which was good. And then his next two clubs, Vélez Sarsfield, I think it was, he hasn't done so well. But I kind of keep going back to the video. I don't know if you've seen it, but when he was on the sideline, he tripped up an opposing player. And so that kind of, in my mind, when I think of Uruguayan footballers, apart from Valverde, because I think he's the first maybe Uruguayan midfielder that's been really, really good. But usually for me, in my mind, it's either Uruguayan centre halves or Uruguayan centre forwards. They seem to produce both in enormous quantities. But if he's, they're also usually renowned for being quite let's say, dirty. So maybe if he instills a bit of that into the Granada players, it might help them with the fight for permanencia in Primera División this year. So that's all I can hope for, maybe a bit more pragmatic defensively, i.e. dealing with what he has, as opposed to, like we just talked about, maybe Paco Lopez's idealism. So maybe he'll be a bit more practical and just, okay, this is what I have, this is what my plan is, as opposed to maybe Paco Lopez, who was going to die with his system. Not that that's a bad thing. Everybody loves to watch good football and played lovely, but maybe they just need to get deep down and dirty and just dig out results, whether it's pretty or not. Maybe that's what the new manager can bring. But as I say, like you guys, I don't know a lot about him either, from Football Manager, FIFA, the internet, or otherwise, So hopefully we can. That's the thing about Granada as well. We've lost, like you said, 7 out of 42 points, but there seems to be some maybe misguided optimism that there can be a result got at the Bernabeu. So let's see tomorrow.
Yeah.
It could be a 9-0. It could be a 9-0, or we could, sneak a header from a corner and win 1-0. Because Real Madrid players are tired. There's I remember reading an article a while ago about dropped points by teams in the Champions League, either the weekend before Champions League match or the weekend after. It's crazy amount. So hopefully we can be one of those kind of results.
Yeah, I love the fact that you use the term misguided, to quantify the optimism that you guys have, because I think it's definitely misguided, honestly. But then, let's get to Jacob. What do you think about Alexandre Medina? What's your opinion? Like, have you read anything or have you seen anything?
Oh yeah, like the news articles are mentioning that he has a high intensity football, and like Paddy was mentioning, he instills a lot of grit and determination with his players. So just from listening to all of this, I'm kind of afraid that we're going to see a Getafe 2.0 in the form of Granada in the rest of the season. So I just hope our players get through unscathed for this match at least, because this is such an unknown entity. Anything could happen, like Paddy said. So hopefully a good clean match tomorrow.
Yeah, especially I totally agree with you, because one thing we know from sure is that, like, Granada has the firepower, and okay, yeah, we have the best defense in the league right now, but as Paddy said, like, one set piece, one cross, and it's turned into the back of the net, and then.
Hey Paddy, like
yeah, go on.
Can you actually
Yes, sir?
mute your mic when you're not speaking, because I feel like there's some background noise coming up.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, don't forget to unmute yourself when you're speaking. Yeah.
All right, sure.
Okay.
Then, it's gonna be quite interesting, boy. We've spoken a lot about Granada so far. Let's slightly move towards the Real Madrid side of things. I think it's I think the best way to start is with the whole fiasco that's happening with Kepa and Lunin. I was actually reading earlier today that Ancelotti, and I'm quoting here, says Kepa is available. He trained today, and for the first time, he has been medically cleared. We will continue with Lunin, so Kepa will have a week to prepare for the match against Betis. Jacob, I come to you. Like, are you surprised by this quote, considering the fact that he said, just what he said 4 days back, in which we argued a lot on this panel, like thereof, like Kepa being available and still Lunin starting goal? Do you think that's something interesting?
I think it's just precautionary, because all the signs point to the fact that Kepa is Ancelotti's trusted person, and he is going to play the remainder of the games. It's just that maybe it's just too soon for Granada. So like it's just like Ancelotti said, like he was also saying that even Modric might be ready for Granada, but then that didn't exactly pan out that way because he isn't training yet. So yeah, I'm fully expecting both of these guys to come on for Betis, but for the Granada game, yeah, we're still a lean machine. We don't have a lot of players to choose from.
I see. Paddy, I wanna pose this question to you, because we've had this back and forth on on our pod a lot of times, where we talk about the fact that it's all about meritocracy and something like that. But do you think, like, when it comes to the goalkeeping thing, like, is it about meritocracy, or like, do you just have a set number one, and he's suspended or injured, he's back and he's out and directly comes back into the team, irrespective of the form of the standing keeper? Or like, do you think, like, we have to go on a weekly basis, considering the fact that our obvious number one is Thibaut, he's out for the whole year. Then we bought in, replacements with Kepa, like, obviously everyone knows what Kepa is, or what Kepa isn't, rather. So, like, do you kind of think, like, it's fair to the second goalkeeper that, he's been a stand-in and he's been really good, but then when the first choice comes back, he automatically goes out of the team? I don't know what your take is on that.
So I personally would be with defence. I think it's and include obviously the goalkeeper in that. But in my mind, you don't change it, especially if you're winning, especially if you're, like you say, best defence in the league at the minute. I personally wouldn't change it. Maybe for Copa del Rey or something like that. But I feel that when a keeper is signing for a club, they're usually made aware of what their position will be. Whether that's just cup goalkeeper, or you're there for backup, or whatever. So in my mind, for better, for worse, I would stay with the same keeper, to be honest with you. And I don't think that he has had to do a lot this season. The defence is kind of keeping it away from him to an extent. But I think when he's been called upon, he's been kind of solid.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I think that's the thing I said we kept as well, but people also, they will always pinpoint to the fact that there's been mistakes here and there. But in my opinion, I think he, as you said, when called upon, like, because he superseded expectations, at least for me. Well, yeah, enough, we've talked a lot about the goalkeeping
Actually, like,
situation. Let's
before we go away from Kepa, Prince Arthur has a comment. So he says, Lunin should keep on until Courtois comes. Kepa, I don't trust him. And I just want to add a point, to the Real Madrid fans who actually absolutely hate Kepa. So he has the third highest save percentage in the league, second only to, I guess, it was the Las Palmas keeper, Valias, who had the highest. So he's not doing bad. It's just that he hasn't looked the most secure when playing the ball out the back or whatever. But, we don't exactly get the best ball playing from Lunin either. So if Ancelotti trusts Kepa, I don't have a problem trusting him either.
Yeah, definitely. It's just it's a simple phrase, but it's if it's not broke, don't fix it. That's kind of where my attitude, as I said there, with the keeper or defensive situation. But Lunin hasn't done much. He was okay when he was on loan a couple of seasons ago, but I don't think that he's the quality of a keeper to be the number one at Real Madrid. But I'm sure he's compensated, accordingly, to sit in the bench every week for whatever amount of time that is.
Yeah, okay, let's just leave the whole keeper situation there, because it's something that will never end, this debate. Let's move to, I think, what we can describe as the elephant in the room, which is Jude Bellingham. Jacob, so what's up with Jude? Like, what's related? Like, as you were saying, he graduated from a shoulder injury to an ankle injury, I think.
Oh yeah. So we all saw the knock that he picked up at Napoli. And apparently it's still bugging him. So he actually was joining the whole team in training, but then he had to walk off in between because he felt a discomfort. So he had to play alone. He had to train alone with the coaching staff. He was still on the pitch though, and Ancelotti, when asked upon Jude's injury situation, he just said, "No, Jude's not injured. He's just fucking tired because of the Champions League game, and that he should be back, and he probably will be playing against Granada."
That's interesting. Speaking of Ancelotti and Jude, I'm gonna come to you, Paddy. So, like, Carlo basically said, I'm quoting him right now. It says Bellingham similar to Di Stefano, Cruyff, or Zidane. I can't compare, but I can say he has many tints of Kaká. I think that's really high praise, relating Jude to, a former Ballon d'Or winner in, Ricardo Kaká. I don't, considering that you're also, a Brit. So, like, what do you say of your fellow Brit man? Like, is he as good as they make him to be, or like, is it like, just the work of the British media, I would say, because I think there is no, hype machine greater than that of the British media. I don't know. What's your take on the whole Jude Bellingham situation?
I mean, he's on Ballon d'Or kind of form, let's say. You know, that's basically as much as high a praise you can say. Kaka, yeah, I can see that. I think Ancelotti had Kaka in Italy at the time as well.
Yeah.
So he would know better than any man. But I also figure that, you know, eventually he's going to have let's say, a bajón. You know, his form's going to drop. And I think at the moment he's actually covering for, let's say, a Benzema-sized hole, you know. So let's see how Madrid go results-wise whenever his form goes down, basically.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. Like, I'll just pose this question to you, Paddy. You think he's the best midfielder in the world right now?
Yes.
Perfect. I think that's a one-worded answer. Speaking of other midfielders, because I think, you know, if we talk about Jude too much, we're gonna, you know, dedicate the whole show to Jude. Like, yeah, Jacob, again, back to you. Like, what's up with Brahim? Like, Brahim also, is he gonna like? We saw like he played it in the middle of the week, and you know he had quite an interesting performance as well himself. So what's up with Brahim? Any injury or?
So the thing with Brahim is, oh, go ahead, Paddy.
Sorry to interrupt you. No, sorry, he had some kind of injury coming out of the last round of games. So I'm not sure how he'll be tomorrow. He was also suspended for the last round of games as well. So hopefully he's a little bit better than he was. But sorry to interrupt you there.
Oh yeah, like which Brahim are you talking about though? We were talking. I thought Farouk was talking about Brahim Diaz.
Yeah, I was talking about our Brahim actually. Well, yeah, go on, Jacob.
Oh yeah, so the thing with Brahim is he is not really injured. He is training healthily with the rest of the team. The only thing is that he has an issue with his shoulder as well, which needs surgery. But then they're just waiting for the right time to put him under the table, you know, because we have so many injuries and we actually do need him at this point in the season. So they're just waiting on him, and it's a surgery that you can also perform just within a year span, I guess, to reduce his discomfort. But yeah, he isn't injured or anything.
No, that's interesting. So like we have two possible surgeries, one for Jude and one for Brahim as well.
Yeah, both with shoulders.
So like I don't both shoulders, right? So I don't know if you know this, but I just want to ask you as well. Like, do you know what the timeline of the surgery looks like? Do like is it like a 2-month rest or like a 6-month stuff or what?
So yeah, the doctors. I heard from the Jude doctors. So they basically said we can basically postpone the surgery down the season, maybe down even a few years. It's not probably gonna make much of a difference. It's just that Jude has to maybe take pain injections when the pain gets bad. So ideally, in a world, I would say it's not going to be a major surgery. It's going to be maybe 2 weeks out, but then it's just something that has to be done down the line when we have a less demanding run of games.
I see. That's quite interesting, though, you know, and I don't see that happening anytime soon, considering the fact that it's not even about the demand of the game. It's just about the fact that we don't even have the personnel, you know. If, you know, we had those players, then you can say, okay, like, yeah, Judy's out for a month. It's cool, like, you know, you can just eliminate a certain period. But the point is right now, like, we literally don't have, you know, personnel to do anything, honestly. You know, speaking of personnel, we also have, you know, the form of Tony Rudiger, you know, and I think Arlo was asked this question, some rest for Rudiger, and then he said, we will see. He's been perfect for us this season. Yeah, Jacob, do you think this is the ideal time to rest Tony Rudiger? You're playing against Granada, 19th in the league, has the worst defense, but a very good attack as well.
Yeah.
We have Nacho on the bench, Alaba fit again.
Yeah, I should trust, you know, Nacho and Alaba in paper, but then I feel like Lucas Boye has given us trouble over the years. He's always looked bright when he comes on against us. So I am a little concerned, but I feel like if you're not going to give Rudiger some kind of rest now, you're never going to give him rest, because after this, we just play Betis after a week, and then midweek against Union, and then finally at Alaves, I guess. So again, a tough run of games coming on, and then this is the only point where we can actually give him a break. So yeah, for this game, I would totally trust Alaba and Nacho, even though, you know, we might potentially have a banana peel on our hands.
That's true. That's true. But then again, you look at it from the other side. Like you look at the game against Union. Game against Union basically is a dead rubber. So like this is a game that also you can rest. You know, you can choose to to rest Rudiger as well. But I don't know. As you just mentioned, I think it's about the fact that Lucas Boye, the offense of Granada is something that, I mean, they have two players with 5 goals and Lucas Boye with 3 goals. It shows that like it's a very productive attack, so you want to have your best defender on the pitch to nullify this, and then you just hope for the best that everything works good, and there is no issue there. Yeah, and then I think with that we can just come back to you, Paddy. Like I don't know, like what do you think like your lineup is going to look like, at the weekend?
I don't see him making too many changes. I think I would imagine if he's watched the last couple of games, then maybe he will get rid of Manafa at right back, because quite a few attacks have come through his end. But I don't think that he will change too much. Like you say, I think he'll play Boye. I think might be some kind of South American bonding, and he might fancy him up front to be the kind of wrecking ball that caused some problems with the two central defenders, and hopefully maybe let Izuni and Brian play a little bit more. But I don't see him, at least to start off with, making a lot of changes from previous games.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Since you're coming into a new team, that you have to get a feel, and they also have to get a feel as well. So it makes a lot of sense to what you said, Paddy, honestly. So yeah, let's come to you, Jacob. Like, do we have any comment in the chat, Jacob? Maybe we can just see if there's anything.
Prince Arthur has a comment. So he says, let's widen the gap, and because we need our start boy Jude, and Rudiger is also playing exceptionally, and I wouldn't rest him. He also says, I think we should actually rest Fede Valverde since he has played the most recently.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally with Prince Arthur on this one. I think that's the thing. Like, we need to, widen the gap, or at least capitalize on the drop points of our opponents. So I think we need to, keep playing these guys. Unfortunately, because we don't have subs, so we just have to keep playing them, till we grind them to the ground. Unfortunately, but yeah, since Prince Arthur brought that up, I don't know, like Jacob, what do you think our 11 is going to look like? We're talking about Jude and Fede and Rudiger. Like, what do you think? What's the changes that's going to happen? What do you think the lineup is going to look like? I mean, we know Lunin is going to be in goal, so we just have to find out the rest.
I actually think there won't be a lot of changes. I know we just played midweek a couple of days ago, and the players are probably going to be really, really tired. But again, after this game, we have 7 days to actually take rest, and then again it's Union. So Ancelotti is probably going to go all out. Not a lot of changes from Napoli, I would expect, except maybe with Nacho coming in for Rudiger.
Nacho coming in for Rudiger. So basically, you're not looking forward to seeing players like Frank Garcia starting.
I don't know, man. The thing is, Mendy has been doing really good this time, and then I just hope he can go through this run of games, and then if he goes through this unscathed, I feel like we can head into the rest of the season a lot more confidently, knowing that Mendy can actually take a string of games.
Yeah, but then the man is made of glass, so do you want him to, playing against, I mean, he has played a lot, so, and then you want to put him against Granada as well. I think it might, I don't know, I just kind of feel like, I would see maybe the same, something quite similar with Dani Carvajal starting, and, we have Fran Garcia on the other hand, and maybe, as you said, Rudiger and maybe Alaba, maybe Rudiger and Nacho, or one of these combinations. But I was just thinking more of, having the sub with Fran Garcia and, for Mendy, considering the fact that Mendy is made of glass.
Yeah, that's certainly a way to go. But the thing is, again, even Carvajal, if you take a look at him, he has second highest minutes in this season. So that's alarming, especially because he's our only good right back. And I feel like we should give him a rest at some point too. So rather than resting Mendy, like I would hope like we can actually rest Carvajal and play Lucas Vazquez over there.
Fair point. Okay, what about the midfield? What's it looking like then, Jacob?
Well, in the midfield, we don't have a lot of options. I mean, who do we have fit? We have Toni Kroos, we have Valverde and Ceballos, I guess. But Ceballos didn't really look, that he was setting the world on fire against Napoli. He had a few mistakes. He didn't really make a big impact. But, it's still early days coming back from an injury. So I would expect him to get a lot of minutes this game. I'm not sure if he starts though, because we do need to keep the pressure up in La Liga, right? And keep the point gap high with Girona and Barca.
Yeah, but if you don't start Dani Ceballos, then who do you start in the midfield?
Oh,
You
yeah,
talked
it's-
about Fede, you talked about.
I think it's going to be the same lineup as Napoli. So Brahim and Bellingham up front in the midfield, and then Valverde and Cruz.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so who's up top then? Joselu?
Oh yeah, I expect Joselu to start this game, and obviously Rodrigo as well. Because without Rodrigo, I don't think we'll be creating any chances.
Yeah, so what's up with Joselu, Jacob? Like, after the game, after he scored in the, in the dying embers of the game against Napoli, like, he was kind of apologizing, to the white wall behind the goal, and Jude was actually asking for him to, to be hyped up and stuff like that. So what's up with Joselu? Like, was it because of the missed chances, or was it because he had overall bad performance?
I don't think overall he had a bad performance. I mean, he was doing all the right things. He was getting to the end of those chances. It's just that he just didn't have the composure to actually put it in. He was just skying it over or missing it totally. And we saw that his confidence, over the week, he also had some Instagram stories saying that, you face a lot of shit as a striker, but then you actually have to have the determination to pull through. And even Jude was backing him up in the press conference as well, saying, I mean, he is a striker, like it or not, and not like it or not. And you just got to be there for him, support him no matter what, so that he can keep his confidence and his morale up when he actually gets the chance to score.
Paddy, I'm just going to come to you, a player like, you look at a player like Joselu, do you feel like he's kind of in the wrong place by being at Real Madrid? Or like, I kind of feel like maybe because he's someone who is a journeyman who's going to, fight for mid-table teams or like put out fire, for relegation threatening teams. But like when he comes to a team where like, you have chances upon chances upon chances, basically you're not, fighting for survival. Like, I think like, I don't know, like, do you think like he's overwhelmed? Like, is he in the wrong place or something like this? Well, how highly do you rate Joselu?
I think he's kind of one of these guys. It's like you would say a Disney movie. He's won the lottery. He's in a place. But when he made his debut for the national team, he showed up and he was great. He kind of showed up and he did his job.
Yeah.
And I think that he's done. He was never going to be a replacement for Benzema. But he's doing a job, and I think that's he's kicked in with a few goals, probably more than Real Madrid expected. But I definitely think he's doing a job for you. More than he's superseded expectations. I think that's whatever expectations they thought, they didn't think he would score as many goals as he had. He was never going to be, the super estrella signing that Real Madrid maybe wanted whenever Benzema left. But he's definitely playing a role in the squad, and that's as good as I think you can expect from him,
Yeah, that's very true, Paddy. Actually, that's the thing. Like, it's a situation of, you have a Fiat and you bought a Fiat, you know what you're buying, you can expect it to keep up with a Lamborghini or a Porsche. So I mean, when you put the money, you know what you're getting in the first place. But anyways, let's move on before we go to the predictions and wrap this up. I'm just gonna leave this to you, Jacob. The whole thing about the referees and Martin Muniera, the guy who was responsible for the handball against Sevilla, who basically cost us the title. I think it was in the 22 season. When we lost the title by 1 point and the last day to Atletico Madrid. Like, he's the guy who's gonna officiate the game tomorrow against Granada, and Real Madrid TV again posted as usual what I believe is just schoolboy edits of of the game. I don't know. Like, can you just take us through the whole fiasco with Muniera?
Oh yeah, so if you just go over to Real Madrid TV, you can see the video that's up. So it's basically highlighting all of the fouls that we received that's not given against us. Obviously, the Militao moment in that 22 season with the Atletico winning the title. So all of those stuff still weighing down on us. And as a fan, of course, this is some shithousery that it's something entertaining, but as an institution, I don't think we should be doing this, putting additional pressure on the referees. And it's just a matter of time until, the La Liga presidents or whatever, they get so annoyed that they actually sanction us for doing this. So, you know what, as long as we don't get into any trouble, it's fine.
Paddy, have you by any chance come across this footage that we are talking about that Real Madrid puts up on, officiating cafes and stuff like that, I don't know if you've seen them.
No, I haven't seen it. I haven't come across it at all. It's not something that maybe Granada are worried about, well, it was actually the game against Valencia was an awful decision refereeing wise. But I think it's something that maybe when you're at the very top, like Real Madrid, those kind of margins become a bigger thing rather than when you're a lower team. There's a lot bigger problems to sort out before you worry about the refereeing,
Yeah, but Paddy, don't you think it's a bit hypocritical from Real Madrid to do this? So because we know that historically, the referees actually tend to favor the big teams more than the lower division teams. Don't you think it's kind of unfair from Real Madrid to be they're targeting us when there is a broader problem here at play that basically you're being the benefactor of this cause, and when they turn against you, you're kind of being hypocritical about it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the thing is, you whatever people, smaller teams in every league will complain about it, and it does happen. I know obviously there's the Negreira case with Barcelona. I'm sure Real Madrid have their own little bit of secrecy in there that they don't want people finding out about. But in every country, it's the same. Whether it's Italy, it's Juventus they're favouring. In Germany, it's Bayern. In England, it's now Manchester City and Liverpool. And that's just the way it always is. I don't know why, but there definitely is. There is a bias. It's easier to, especially in Spain, no matter what town you're in, half the town's probably Real Madrid or Barcelona. So if you're from a little tiny place in Burgos, you're going to be getting a lot of shit all week if you give a penalty or don't give a penalty. I'm talking about in terms of the referee. But there's definitely a bias, but I don't know. There's not much you can do about it because it does have, as I say, in every country. No matter what the big team is, they're going to be favoured for whatever reason, illegitimate or otherwise. It's just, a bias that's maybe they don't even realise that they have. But you see it in England, you see it in Spain that, in press conferences, the managers are always putting pressure on them. Jurgen Klopp's a master at it at the minute, saying, oh, we're not getting these decisions, and Man United are, and all of a sudden you see Man United have very few penalties this season because he's been complaining about it, and there's statistics to back it up. They do it. I think it's touches in the box per penalty, and United is whatever amount, it's astronomical the amount of touches. So it does happen, pressure from referees, whether it was, Mourinho back in the day, he was a master of it, just influencing referees by his comments, and next thing the media pick up on it and run with it. So it does happen, there's bias there, and it's kind of played with as well, pressure's put on, and I'm sure there's phone calls behind the scenes as well,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. Actually, but then hopefully, the game tomorrow is not, being influenced by officiating decisions, and we can sit back after the talk about the footballing aspect rather than the officiating thing. But yeah, that's something that's not in our control, and I think if you're, in my opinion, at least if you're whining about the referee, it means that you've not performed to the utmost of your of your best. But anyways, Jacob, let's move on from the refereeing thing, and we can go on to have some predictions. But before we do that, do we have any new comments or no?
Oh yeah, we have a couple of comments. So Ricardo asks, Iningus and Guler, when can we actually see him on the field? So he is out for this game. He did not make the matchday squad, but he just started training yesterday with the rest of the team. So we can expect him to be at least available for Betis, I think. That's going to be my prediction. But of course, we don't know with him. We have to, wrap him up in wool and, just play him when he's ready.
Yeah, that's true. Like with Arda, like there is no rush. Like he has his whole Real Madrid career ahead of him. So like it's best to have him when he's fully fit and when he's all back and ready. Hopefully we can get to see him before the end of the year. Otherwise at the turn of the year also it's perfect. As I said, there is no rush. So without further ado, let's just wrap this up by getting our predictions. And I will let's start with our guests. Let's be courteous. Like Paddy, like what's your prediction for tomorrow? What's the scoreline looking like?
I'm kind of between two. It's like, okay, it's 5 or 6-0 for Real Madrid, or a sneaky set piece 1-0 to Granada. So I don't know. I hope for one, but I think the other may happen.
Come on, you don't think it's going to
Yeah,
be a crazy game like in the Barcelona game where it's going to be a 2-2 or a 3-4 exciting 3-2 victory?
I mean, you say that, but you're also talking about a team with the best defence, Barcelona's defence isn't what it was last season when it was the best defence in the league. So it's nowhere near what it was. But Real Madrid are, the only thing is that, they played midweek. It's a high intensity game against Napoli, a big team. So maybe there's a bit of tiredness in there. And like I talked about earlier, the results that, a lot of bad results for Champions League teams, either the week before or after a Champions League game. So in their domestic league. So maybe we can get a bit of that luck too.
Definitely. You want me to go next?
Honestly, fair. Yeah, sure. Jacob, just what's your prediction? Let's hear them.
Yeah, I think especially considering that it's an earlier kickoff, the players, they're probably not always 100% mentally tuned in for these ones. So I expect us to concede first, and if we do have the good, because Rodrigo is in such a good run of form, that we can actually score 2 goals or more. So I'm going to predict it's a 2-1 victory for us, but we're going to concede for sure.
Oh, great. I'm gonna go a bit more, towards Paddy's prediction. I'm thinking it's gonna be something in the range of a 4-1 or 4-1, 5-1-ish kind of victory. I think there's gonna be a lot of goals from Real Madrid, honestly, and I just think Granada wouldn't be able to put it, honestly. But yeah, again, as Paddy said, indeed that they do manage a bounce and a sneaky 1-0 or 1-1 draw or something like that. But I personally believe that we should have too much for Granada tomorrow at the game, so I'm predicting a very high margin victory for Real Madrid.
Yeah, that's a good show.
I'm guessing that's all. I don't know, Paddy, do you have anything to add? Otherwise, we will just wrap this up, and we really, really do appreciate you coming up onto the show. And
no problem. I think just if you gave us a 1-1 draw right now, I'd eat your arm off. I'd take that point very gladly.
That's I understand the feeling. I understand the feeling, but that's more of a worst case scenario. I'm thinking more of something that's gonna put Granada fans to shame and they can go to work on Monday. That kind of scoreline.
Definitely would. But the problem down here is that there are a lot of Real Madrid fans. So because the success of Granada has been only in the last few years, relatively. Basically everybody's a Real Madrid or Barcelona fan.
Yeah.
It's good. The fan base is definitely getting better, but people used to laugh at you down here if you said you're actually following Granada. But that when you're starved of success, 30 years, 35 years maybe before or since Granada had been back in Primera. So bit by bit, you can see it every home game now. The fan base is just getting better and better and better, which is good. And hope long may it continue.
Yeah, long may it continue, but after the weekend, not the next weekend, it can continue.
I hope you're wrong. But it's been a pleasure, guys.
Yeah, definitely, Paddy. We are so appreciative of that, and thank you so much for coming on. It's really great to talk to fans, that support the lesser teams. Like it's easy to support Real Madrid and Barcelona. It's it's the true passionate fans that find a reason to support this lesser routed club. And honestly, it's always fun to talk to you guys because these are in my opinion at least, these are the proper footballing people. So it's always fun, to talk to people like you. Yeah, Jacob, it was nice to have you as well. Again, as usual, every week, every other day. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just an afterthought here.
Without any further, yeah, man, like you're basically like furniture now, Yeah, without further ado, then let's just end it so we can also let Zach go, and then Jacob, what to say as usual. Hala Madrid!
Hala Madrid.
Yeah. Take care, guys.